Frank Strono, apologies, content specialist on diversity. He will be giving a speech on, a talk on mentoring the LGBT workforce, and I'll welcome Frank to the stage.
Hi, everybody. So it was nice to follow that presenter because you see I coordinated my shoes to match. So if you're following the Twitter feed, you'll notice I have the Rainbow Sparkle Doc Martens on today. And that sort of fits because I rarely ever look the way I appear or act. And impressions are a big part of it. So when they asked about doing the mentor program today, I thought, oh, perfect. I come from a variety of backgrounds. I live here in the Bay Area. I travel a lot for work. But the whole idea of mentoring and lost opportunities. So for those of you, and I'm going to make a general assumption that you all are either going to mentor somebody or are mentoring somebody, or is a mentee or should be a mentee. Because the whole idea is you're never only just one. Throughout the lifespan of your employment, your development as a person, you will be rolling into, and that's a big thing I advocate. What I'm going to talk about today, though, is the idea of faces of mentorship and lost opportunities. One of the nice things about mentoring someone or being mentored is the ability to fail. We undervalue the opportunities to fail. There are some huge gifts. And as LGBT folks, our gifts are we get to show how do we do it gracefully when we fail, and then how do we accept those opportunities to grow. In my part of my regular world, I often am the only gay at the table. I own that. I took the job specifically for that because I get to talk. I have to say, my regular job, I talk a lot about sex every day. So I'm like an HR nightmare in traditional business, but I went to school for technology. I went to school to code. Matter of fact, your first presenter and I were comparing COBOL disasters. I've moved into a different realm these days, and a big part of it is we never want to lose the opportunity to try something, or because of a label, because of what we've labeled somebody or we've self-labeled, lose an opportunity to grow. So we look at the faces of mentorship, and upper left-hand corner is my friend Lewis, and you're going to meet Lewis because I'm going to tell you two stories about two opportunities. One of them is, I think, a great memory for me. The second one was an almost fail, and I figured there's no greater way I could share you today. By now, you've gotten all sorts of data and examples and codes. I'm just going to tell you my stories of what could have happened. The two quotes in blue are real quotes. Those are real quotes from folks, and the big piece about this is you have to be authentic to yourself, who you are. So when you go into the workplace, it's very hard to maintain some other. If I have to wear a suit every day and a tie and take my earrings out, I can do it for a week, a month, but after a while, I don't feel comfortable. Now, I did acquiesce. Somewhere around my 40s, I agreed to take out my tongue piercing and my labret piercing. And when I'm in DC, I wore my shirts, folded down so the tattoos don't show, just as a sign of respect, not because anybody asked. And that's one of the things I think we often struggle with. We fight so hard to be unique and to be accepted, we don't know when to step back because we have to be part of. Sometimes you have to just be part of your workforce environment. You don't have to stand out. So understanding, and I have a young man I mentored, actually, the young man in the upper right-hand corner, Brian, he tried so hard to be distinct that it was a moment when he's like, just relax. Just be who you are and know when you can step back and step forward. Now, he was great. I worked with him at San Jose State. He was one of my students. And through the course of 6 years, he went from being a student to being my TA to being my professional colleague. And now he actually does what he used to do as a student with me. And he does a lot of technology in public health and hospital systems. So you never know who you're going to affect or who will affect you. As a matter of fact, one of my mentors, she always said, and that's why I wore the boots today, and she's a very powerful woman, very well-educated, very incredibly sensitive to diversity issues. And she used to say, she would always get dressed up for these meetings. The big meetings, she said, you got to wear the good heels for the good meetings. And it really struck me around, so when I want to get a point made, when I want to sell that program or I need to sell that piece, I need to make sure I'm not always in my own way. So I gave you some examples of people. Now, a lot of my work is with health departments and health, but I also work privately. So These are 5, 6, what do I have, 6 now? 6 people. Anybody have an idea what these people have in common? Other than me?
They're helping other people?
They're all helping other people. Yeah, that's true. But every single one of these is a potential fail if you made judgments based on who they are racially, age-wise, gender-wise, identity-wise. If we had made a judgment, they could have been. In my case, every one of these people I have had a relationship, and I could have had a mentoring fail, either as a mentor to them or as someone I wanted to mentor. The one thing they all do have in common is they showed up and they engaged. They were ready to play. It's really an interesting piece because that senior leader is a mentor to me. But by all classic purposes, we should have been never able to exist in the same room except to do our 8 hours. He was a 60-something-year-old black man from the South, ex-military, gracious, sensitive, quiet, soft-spoken, everything I tend not to be. And here I come in, I think it was in my early 40s, very out from the Bay Area. My personality reached before it even got there. Boy, did it. I can remember being at CDC one day and them saying, "You're not what we expected. What did you expect?" And they never answered it, but I guess I wasn't. You're going to hear about a couple of these other people, but sometimes you pigeonhole that, and Norm went on to be this huge mentor for me. He had a significant role, and he often said, I was an opportunity for him as well. So just because there's a label, you actually have a give and take, and that's really important to register. I took this picture this summer in Boston. I was in between my vacation trips, and I just love the picture, so this was my first opportunity to use it, and I thought, that's it. Because there's a whole series of these. It's a moment when kids have no idea around what's right and what's wrong. The next sequence in this photo, the little boy in the blue swimsuit is with one of his little friends, and they're hugging in the rain, in the water. And it's such a hugely interesting photo, because when you really think about it is, where is that moment where we forget that it's okay to say, "Hi, I'm Frank. Can you be my friend?" And all of a sudden, there's got to be a reason. There's a gain. Something is in it for us. Or, I'm not supposed to be friendly with you because of who you are, what you are, how you dress, etc. So let me tell you a little bit about my friend Lewis. Lewis and I met. He called me one day, and I was running some support groups. And Lewis worked for one of the public utilities doing some administrative tech stuff, and he was unhappy. Now, Lewis was this vivacious, young, Asian descent young man. And he was quirky, and he was funny, and he had a sense of humor, but he was unhappy. And they never took him seriously. So in the course of our time together, there was like, well, what do you want to do? I want to work in films. I want to be a publicist. So we started trying to figure out. And over the course of 5 years, we became friends. And it was really interesting because he was 18 years younger than me. And it was fun to see things through his eyes. He had to step up, and he had to often be different, but he never lost the quality of who he was. Yet, he often, for his first few years, would come with me to different work events because he was trying to learn. He was trying to figure out how to navigate a stage, how to navigate crowds. He was, for somebody who was vivacious, he was very shy. So this was a great opportunity. It didn't feel like a lot of my time. It didn't feel like it was going to be difficult. Yes, unfortunately, in the gay community, when you would see the two of us together, there were a lot of negative stereotypes. People assumed we were having sex. They assumed I was going after a young Asian fella. That wasn't, more often than not, we'd look at each other and giggle. I mean, that just wasn't in our agenda. But it was a real opportunity. So Lewis died at 44. Not because he was partying, not because he was doing anything he shouldn't have. He simply had an issue that was undiagnosed. So this is my reminder. This is the power mentor. By the time he died, Lewis had an incredible career with TLA and the film industry. Cherie is my almost fail. When I met Cherie, she was friendly. She's part of a team that I work with, but I always kept her a distance. She was everything I'm not. She has a strong religious faith. She was a missionary, a woman of color, comes from Texas. So I was always pleasant, and she would say to people, how come everybody says Frank's so friendly? He doesn't ever feel, I mean, he's never rude, because I didn't know how to work with her. And I was afraid that I would put myself in an awkward position. Well, one day, we had to go see a mutual friend. We were doing some emergency response, and we were in a car for 75 minutes together. And she was driving, so I was stuck. And she finally says, why do you not treat me the same? My opportunity with her at that moment was I could ignore it or I could own it. And I owned it. I had to say, because I'm uncomfortable with your beliefs, I'm uncomfortable with who you are. She's like, I got a gay uncle, I could care less. From now, she's just started a new PhD program that I graduated from. This was an opportunity I could have had to fail with a mentorship because I was afraid. I was afraid of her color. I was afraid of her differences in religion. Don't be afraid. You have to step up when you want a mentor or be a mentor. Mentors learn. So I'm going to leave you with these. My time is up. Actually, I have 20 seconds. So I'm going to leave you. I see the timer here. I just noticed it. So there are 5 ahas of what I want to leave you with. If you're in a business or you're an organization, stop making it so difficult for people to get mentorships. I shouldn't have to take 12 clicks on your website to find out. Career, mentor opportunities. Same page. Make the links easy. It's a partnership. You have to give or take. You definitely don't want to do the same. If you want a mentor from your industry and they're not LGBT, fine. Don't always think they have to be the same as you. I like taking non-LGBT mentees because they're in for a ride. It's a time-intensive process, no shortcuts included. And lastly, you want to make sure that you're coming from even those you have creative differences with or philosophical differences, because you can learn to agree to disagree, you will have the most success in your future. Here's my 10 minutes. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you so much, Frank. And next, we have Liz.